Welcome. On the news, protests demand South Korean president's resignation over martial law. Celsius founder Mashinsky admits guilt to fraud charges. North Korea, Russia, China monitor crisis in U.S. ally South Korea. Trump uses Hunter Biden pardon claim to dismiss hush money case. And Ramaphosa urges G20 to avoid Trump's America First policies. Stay with me for these and more stories. Following a substandard imposition of martial law, Yoon Suk-yeol, South Korean president, faces demands to quit. On Tuesday, Yoon's order to enforce martial law in South Korea plunged the country into a deep chaos and caught allies around the world off guard. It brought thousands of protesters to the streets before lawmakers voted it down. The dramatic development have left the future of Yoon, a conservative politician and ex-star public prosecutor elected president in 2022, in jeopardy. South Korea's major opposition party, whose lawmakers jumped fences and tussled with security forces so they could vote to overturn the law, have demanded Yoon's quick resignation. The leader of Yoon's own ruling party described the order to declare martial law tragic and called for those involved to be held accountable. Following the president's order, over 280 troops supported by 24 helicopters had arrived at Parliament to lock down the site, but 190 lawmakers defied the soldiers to force their way into Parliament to vote to reverse the move. Democratic South Korea is a major ally of the United States, but Washington, which stations closely 30,000 troops in South Korea due to the threat from the nuclear-armed North, said it was not given advance notice of Yoon's plan. China, a major ally of North Korea, urged its nationals in the South to stay calm and exercise caution. Japan said it was monitoring the situation with exceptional and serious concerns. Talking judicial matters, the founder and former CEO of cryptocurrency leader Celsius Network, Alexei Mashinsky, has pleaded guilty in the United States to 2 counts of fraud. On July 13, 2023, Mashinsky, 59, was indicted on 7 counts of fraud, conspiracy, and market manipulation charges. Federal prosecutors in Manhattan said he misled Celsius customers to persuade them to invest and artificially inflated the value of his company's proprietary crypto token. He pleaded not guilty later that day. During a hearing before U.S. District Judge John Curtil, Mashinsky on Tuesday said he pleaded guilty to 2 out of the 7 counts he was originally charged with: commodities fraud and a fraudulent scheme to manipulate the price of CEL Celsius in-house token. In court, Mashinsky admitted to giving Celsius customers false comfort by giving an interview in 2021 in which he said Celsius had received approval from regulators for its Earn program, which it had not. The Earn program permitted users to deposit cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Theta and receive weekly interest payments offering as much as 18% yearly. He said he has also failed to reveal that he had been selling his holdings of CEL. As part of his plea deal with prosecutors, Mashinsky agreed not to appeal any sentence of 30 years or less, the maximum he faces for the 2 counts. He was one of many crypto moguls to be charged with fraud after a slump in crypto prices in 2022 caused a number of companies, including the now bankrupt exchange FTX, to collapse. Prices for digital assets like Bitcoin have since spiked in part due to optimism about U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's expected friendly policies towards cryptocurrency. Founded in 2017, Celsius filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in the U.S., which permits a business continue operating while it works on a plan to repay its creditors in July 2022. After customers rushed to withdraw deposits as crypto prices fell, many were initially unable to access their funds. The company exited bankruptcy on January 31st and has pivoted to Bitcoin mining. Now, a night of political upheaval in South Korea has toppled stability in a major democratic U.S. ally, sending shockwaves through the region and Washington at a moment of acute global tension. On Tuesday, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol declared martial law night in a surprise decree that was upturned hours later following devastating opposition across the political spectrum for what was widely seen as a breach of the country's vibrant democracy. The step, which Yoon claimed was essential to save the country against anti-state forces trying to destroy the constitutional order of liberal democracy, was met by protests in Seoul and mounting calls for the president's resignation. The striking development appeared to catch Washington off guard. That's an unwavering reality for the United States military, which has closely 30,000 troops and its biggest overseas base in South Korea, serving as a check against belligerent North Korea and counterweight to an aggressive China in a strategically critical region. The chaos has the potential for major ramifications at a moment of deepening geopolitical fault lines in Asia, where both North Korea and China are boosting their alignment with Russia as it wages war on Ukraine. Leaders in Pyongyang, Beijing, and Moscow are likely watching the developments in Seoul with an eye to its potential to undermine a major stronghold of U.S. power in the region, and all eyes are now on North Korea, which may be keen to use the political turmoil to its advantage. The U.S.-South Korea alliance has long been seen by both countries as a cornerstone of peace in the region, where North Korea continues to threaten South Korea and the U.S. with its illegal weapons program. That threat has only become more acute as North Korea has increased its partnership with Russia, sending ammunition, missiles, and soldiers, intelligence officials say, to assist Moscow's war against Ukraine. Any instability in South Korea has major ramifications for our Indo-Pacific policies, retired U.S. Colonel Cedric Layton said, according to reports, pointing to how U.S. troops in the country are geared for a fight tonight scenario against North Korea. The less stability there is in South Korea, the worse it gets for us to fulfill our policy goals. Joe Biden, U.S. president, has worked assiduously during his time in office to boost the U.S. partnership with South Korea, meeting Yoon several times, referring to the South Korean leader as a great friend, and earlier this year passing his Summit for Democracy to Yoon to host in South Korea. President-elect Donald Trump's defense lawyers are using President Joe Biden's pardon of his son Hunter to argue that Trump's conviction in his Manhattan hush money case should be dismissed. Trump lawyers wrote in a motion filed on Monday in issuing a 10-year pardon to Hunter Biden that covers any all crimes, whether charged or uncharged. President Biden asserted that his son was selectively and unfairly prosecuted and treated differently. Trump's lawyers, Todd Blanche and Emil Bove, whom he has picked for top Justice Department posts in his new administration, argue these comments amount to a condemnation of Biden's own Justice Department and that New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg has engaged in the same kind of political theater. Earlier this year, Bragg's office successfully prosecuted Trump for falsifying business records related to hush money payments made to adult film star Stormy Daniels in 2016. Judge Juan Merchan indefinitely postponed Trump's sentencing in the case after Trump won re-election. Trump's lawyers also want the conviction dismissed, but the DA's office says it will oppose any effort to toss the case. In addition to the pardon argument, Trump's attorneys also told the judge that his case should be dismissed given his re-election last month. They pointed to special counsel Jack Smith's decision to end the 2 federal criminal cases he had brought against Trump last year, a decision Smith said was rooted in long-standing Justice Department policy barring the department from criminally pursuing a sitting president. Bragg's office last month acknowledged to the court in New York that Trump is not likely to be sentenced until after the end of defendant's upcoming presidential term, but argued that Trump's felony conviction should stand. A source close to the district attorney's office said it is open to a 4-year hold of the case. Meanwhile, as the world awaits the inauguration of U.S. President Donald Trump, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has repeated the G20 resolution to work together with the new leader. Ramaphosa reassured them about the significant steps they have taken to caution against Trump's America First approach in his second administration, which begins in January 20th, 2025. So I think there will be sufficient shock absorbers that will be put in place to enable the G20 to continue to function in a way that will advance the interest of the world. And remember, through the G20, we are not advancing the interests of one single country. We are advancing the interests of the people of the world, collectively represented in G20, said Ramaphosa. Trump has given a sign that his foreign policy will be combative. He has promised to enforce new tariffs in China, Mexico, and Canada, while he also threatened this weekend 100% tariffs against nations in the BRICS bloc of developing nations, which include Brazil, Russia, China, India, South Africa, and others. Trump said those countries should anticipate to wave goodbye to selling into the wonderful U.S. economy if they pursue a policy of looking to move away from the U.S. dollar for international trade. On Tuesday, Ramaphosa said he had reached out to the U.S. president-elect to congratulate him on his re-election victory. He also hoped Trump will travel for the G20 summit in South Africa in late 2025. South Africa assumed the rotational leadership of the group of the world's leading economies on Sunday from Brazil and will hand it over to the United States at the end of 2025. In African scenes and on more stories, Biden tours slavery museum in Angola. U.S. President Joe Biden on Tuesday, while speaking, said our nation's original sin toured a slavery museum in Angola and inspected shackles and a whip, but also tackled Africa's future, saying Africans will make up 1 in 4 people by 2050 and the world's fate rests in their hands. Biden's visit, the first to Angola by a U.S. president, is intended to promote billions of dollars of commitments to the sub-Saharan African nation for what he called the biggest ever U.S. real investment overseas. The United States is all in on Africa, Biden earlier on Tuesday told Angolan President João Lourenço, who called Biden's visit a major turning point in U.S.-Angola relations dating back to the Cold War. On Wednesday, Biden will visit the coastal city of Lobito for a look at the corridor's Atlantic Ocean outlet. The project also has drawn financing from the European Union, the group of 7 leading industrialized nations, a Western-led private consortium, and African banks. It was uncertain how much of the U.S. commitments had been delivered and how much will rely on the Trump administration. Biden had vowed to visit Sub-Saharan Africa last year after reviving the U.S.-Africa summit in 2022, but the journey was stalled until this year, reinforcing a sentiment among Africans and that their continent is still a low priority for Washington. The last U.S. president to visit Sub-Saharan Africa was Barack Obama in 2015. Biden toured Angola's National Slavery Museum at a site that was formerly the headquarters of the Capilla de Casa Grande, a 17th century temple where slaves were baptized before boarding ships to America. Angola was the departure point for an estimated 6 million enslaved people, the White House said. Looking ahead, I know the future runs through Angola, through Africa, Biden said. History cannot and should not be erased, and that while America was founded on the ideal of freedom and equality, it's abundantly clear today we have not lived up to that ideal, speaking on a stage by the water. We take a breather now, and when we come back, I'll bring you stories from Nigeria. Please don't go anywhere. You're welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. Now, stories from Nigeria, and still on the contested tax reform bill. Tinubu urges Justice Ministry NAS to resolve tax bill issues. President Bola Tinubu has asked the Ministry of Justice to work with the National Assembly to tackle the concerns raised by different quarters on the tax reform bills. Mohammed Idris, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, conveyed the President's position in a statement issued on Tuesday. The President directed the Ministry and relevant officials involved in drafting the bills to work closely with the National Assembly, according to the statement. The tax reform bills, conscripted by the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, target to overhaul existing tax laws in Nigeria. The 4 bills, the Nigeria Tax Bill 2024, the Tax Bill Administration Bill, the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill, was transmitted to the National Assembly by the President on 3rd October. These bills have, however, faced strong opposition, mainly from northern parts of the country, where some governors have labeled them anti-North. The debates surrounding the bills have intensified into a North-South divide, particularly over the VAT sharing formula. The National Economic Council, composed of state governors and chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima, recently urged the president to withdraw the bills for further consultation. However, the president declined, stating that all concerns should be resolved in the National Assembly. The Northern Governors Forum similarly has also openly opposed the bill, citing regional interest. The bills so far have passed a second reading in the Senate. However, they face greater uncertainty in the House of Representatives, where opposition continues to increase. Now, Sanwo-Olu approves Lagos electricity bill into law. On Tuesday, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu signed into law the Lagos State Electricity Bill 2024, saying the bill's sole intention is to ensure independent power supply to residents. Sanwo-Olu, at the signing held in Lagos House, Alausa Ikeja, said the implementation will begin in the next 6 months. The objective of the law includes establishing a Lagos electricity market that is technically sound, financially viable and well-regulated, ensuring access to affordable, reliable and sustainable electricity for all citizens. The law will allow establishment of critical institutions to manage and oversee the electricity markets, which include the Lagos State Electricity Regulatory Commission for independent oversight, regulatory compliance and licensing. I will describe the law as a watershed in the production and distribution of electricity in the state. These will enhance productivity of our dear beloved Lagosians. With the establishment of agencies like the Lagos Independent System Operator ISO for ensuring system reliability and operational efficiency, also the Lagos State Electrification Agency is saddled with expanding electricity access to undeserved communities, he said. Similarly, the bill sought to provide for the creation and administration of Lagos electricity markets. Sabu Olua, Chairman House Committee on Energy and Mineral Resources, Lagos State House of Assembly, said. Also, Biodun Ogunleye, the Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources, said the implementation of the law is planned to begin within 6 months after securing the federal government's approval. The Lagos State Electricity Law 2024 is a comprehensive plan of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's resolve to tackling long-standing challenges in the energy sector. The law will lay a robust foundation for economic growth, fostering industrial growth, improve quality of life, energy equity, economic prosperity, and environmental sustainability. The Electricity Act enables subnational governments to generate and distribute electricity. Before signing of the bill, Lagos Electricity Bill had a demand of about 12,000 megawatts, which is about 90% of the current national installed 13,000 megawatts capacity. According to reports, the current 4,000 megawatts being aimed by the government is only 13.33% of the actual needs of the commercial city. Present at the signing of the bill were the Deputy Governor Dr. Femi Hamzat, Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice Pedro Lawal, and Commissioner for Information and Strategy Benga Omotosho, among others. And finally, on the news on international matters, South Africa eases visa rules for Nigerians. Cyril Ramaphosa, President of South Africa, has announced a latest visa policy for Nigerians, saying investors and tourists could apply for a visa without submitting passport. On Tuesday, the South African president revealed this at the opening of the 11th session of the Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission (BNC) in Cape Town, which President Bola Tinubu attended. South Africa, according to him, has simplified its visa processes to facilitate travel for Nigerian business people and tourists with measures such as 5-year multiple entry visas. He noted that the gesture was to form a favorable environment, particularly to simplify visa process for Nigerian business people to travel to South Africa. He also promised South Africa's commitment to removing constraints on greater investment and tackling the challenges faced by companies in both countries. As we mark 30 years since the establishment of diplomatic relations, we see a bright future for our relationship. Our strong bonds of friendship provide a firm foundation for more meaningful economic cooperation. Nigeria is to host a number of South African companies. South Africa has always been open to Nigerian business, reflected in the number of investments and operations established in this country. But there is much more we need to do. We need to remove the remaining constraints to greater investment, just as we need to address some of the challenges that companies have experienced. Ramaphosa also acknowledged the Nigerian government's reforms to further boost and foster a business environment that offers assurances to investors, including from South Africa. He said his administration will continue with its effort to advance the ease of doing business in South Africa. The South African leader said Africa's development and the challenges facing countries of Global South will be firmly placed on the G20 agenda. A recap of major stories says protests demand South Korean president's resignation over martial law. Celsius founder Mashinsky admits guilt to fraud charges. North Korea, Russia, China monitor crisis in U.S. ally South Korea. Trump uses Hunter Biden pardon claim to dismiss hush money case, and Ramaphosa urges G20 to avoid Trump's America First policy. And that's all on the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. I'm Not Threat.